Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. At long last, it is our Week 1 preview episode. 14 games on the slate. We previewed Thursday and Friday evening on Tuesday's show, if you want to check that out. But 14 games the rest of the week. They're going to all be covered in this episode. That includes the Ravens at the Bills on a little network you may have heard of called NBC, the Lions at the Packers, the Bucs at the Falcons, the Dolphins at the Colts, one of the higher total games of the week somehow. We're going to have amazing stuff on every game, every fantasy relevant player touched upon. And yeah, just happy Week 1 to everyone out there, except per Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots, who, Bill, you may have heard college debut. They were up 7-0, and then I turned the game off because I just assumed they won.
It was looking good.
Turns out it was 48-14. And Bill, he's coping with it like an adult. By banning the New England Patriots from attending any UNC practices. Bill, listen, you two for years have been telling me, like, he's the greatest coach of all time. Deserves a second chance. It's clearly amazing. I was like, guys, Bill is washed. Bill is washed. You guys are living in the
lawyer
past.
Needs to run back the tapes.
You guys are living in the past.
Release the tapes, Adam. Release the tapes. Pat believes that Belichick was good. Never been good. Never good Hall of Fame. Forget about the football Hall of Fame. Never good Hall of Fame, Bill Belichick.
The problem is he's not even good at cheating anymore. All right, listen, my welcome to sports moment was the New England Patriots filming the Rams walkthrough before Super Bowl 36 and then cheating and grabbing the entire game. Like, this is how we play football now, huh? Apparently. We're holding hands down the field. Is that how we do it now? And guess what? The league changed the rules after the game. Super Bowl was stolen from 15-year-old me. But after a certain amount of time, I came to respect that about Bill. But now he doesn't even have that anymore. He can't even cheat to beat TCU. This is TCU.
Stop it. No, first of all, you've never psychologically recovered from that.
No.
Denny, not even kidding. Pulling away all artifice and bit, I actually don't know if I have.
No, I don't think you have. I think it's very clear that if you live to 100 years old, you will still remember this and still be scarred by it. Okay, so for those who don't know, obviously after UNC got their pants beat off at home, humiliated in front of a home crowd that emptied the stadium in the third quarter. That was
bad. Crazy. They all went to pet Kirk Herbstreit's dog.
So then he said, okay, Patriots scouts can't come to Tar Heels. And honestly, he's doing them a solid.
He is. They were probably like, man, thank God it's going to be awkward because we were going to go to be polite.
Dude, everybody on that team stinks.
Yeah.
Like, they just all stink. And also, I watched that game, and the things that the Tar Heels were doing wrong were very coach-related. Missed tackles, fumbles, missed exchanges, special team stuff. Bill Belichick.
The special team stuff is probably like a particular gut punch because it's that type of nitty-gritty detail that Bill loves to get right, and to watch his team botch it again and again, and to know that they're going to lose again to Charlotte next week brings warmth to my heart.
They are. Absolutely.
Denny says every player on UNC stinks. I'll tell you who doesn't stink. Every player on the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. The game of the century arrives early this season on NBC and Peacock Sunday evening with the Chiefs as little buddies, Baltimore and Buffalo meeting up in upstate New York. The Bills catching about 1.5 points at home, Denny. These two supporting casts are mostly status quo this year. That includes the Bills receiver core. They have added Josh Palmer. But between Josh Palmer, Khalil Shakir, and Keon Coleman, who are you ultimately most excited about in fantasy this season? The Bills wide receivers, like their ADPs just never really settled. I never entirely knew what to do with them in drafts. Which of these three, I was going to say big three, but just these three, are you most excited about in fantasy this year?
I think Shakir, and I'm just going to take the easy way out and say Shakir. I mean, the guy really commanded targets at a high rate last year. Didn't have the greatest route participation. I would like to see that, bump up a little bit. This is obviously our first chance to see whether that will happen. The Bills didn't run a ton of 3 receiver sets last year, and that's kind of where, Shakir would be on the field because he plays mostly from the slot. So his usage will be of interest to me. I did want to mention that Keon Coleman not practicing on Thursday with a groin injury. So could be Curtis Samuel season. Those who celebrate.
So Keon's already hurt again, man, because that was Keon was starting to cook. By cook, I mean he had 2 or 3 decent games in a row before he got hurt last year. And I was kind of like, we all had a good laugh at Keon Coleman, but what if he's actually good? And I guess he's just not.
He's probably not. No.
Probably not. Josh Palmer season, wide receiver 4 season. Kyle, anything to add on the Bills receivers, or do you need to get to Mark Andrews?
No, I mean, I kind of agree with Denny. I could see us getting a Christian Kirk, I forget if it was like 2022 or whatever, year from Khalil Shakir, where I don't think Khalil Shakir should be a team's number 1 receiver, but he can maybe play that role in a pinch for a year or two until they hit on the draft pick, until they hit on their, hopefully they hit on Keon Coleman. It seems like they'll have to wait till the next receiver to potentially hit. But if you're that guy for Josh Allen, I don't care if you're not as talented as every team's number 1 receiver. You could be Josh Allen's number 1 receiver, and that's all that matters to me. So especially because we got such a good discount late in drafts, and I guess you could still be drafting by the time you hear this, I thought he was a pretty good click late in summer, and he seems to be completely healthy now. I don't think he was on the injury report at all.
People appear to be drafting NFFC teams all weekend. So
I saw the main event team on Saturday morning.
They're going to be getting a sneak peek at 4 different teams before their weekend high dollar draft. So yeah, Kyle, Mark Andrews, he recovered after a dreadful start to 2024. People were declaring his fantasy career over. He ends up like tight end 8 or 9, real strong finish to the year, especially with Isaiah Likely still recovering from foot surgery, out for week 1. Andrews looks set up well for 2025. But what are realistic expectations for a veteran who has been all over the map of late, including, listen, I know coaches always say it's not about just one play. One Mark Andrews play ended the Ravens season last year. How realistic are expectations for Mark Andrews this year?
Didn't he have a horrific fumble too? So you could say 2 Mark Andrews
plays. It was actually 2. Without those, they probably easily advanced to the AFC Championship game. Sorry.
Technically, if you could rewrite those plays, they probably do advance the AFC
Sorry to be so mean. It's a very hard game.
It's true. Sometimes one play just really sucks, but his season, especially that second half of the season, was really strong. Not even first half. They had their bye in week 14. Up until then, he was running about 2/3 of the routes, which is almost non-fantasy viable. That's like the tweener tight end type stuff we'll see from like a Dalton Kincaid. He was still relatively efficient, really efficient. In fact, 1.8 yards per route run, but not an elite target earner. It was largely just coasting on efficiency on small amount of routes and touchdown production, which he had the entire year almost. But then from that bye onward, and he got in a car crash at the beginning of the year, and then he doesn't.
I know. We just kept forgetting about the car crash. I
feel like he's also an older player, and older players fall off. And maybe it's just a coincidence, and the back half was stacked in a very favorable way. From week 14 onward, he ran 77% of the routes, which isn't an elite route rate, but it's much more in line with just a starting tight end, a top 15-ish tight end, and averaged over 2 yards per route run. He was one of the most efficient tight ends down the stretch, and also earned targets at a much higher clip and produced yak. That's I don't know how important yak production is in total, but I do think a lot of times it's a good way to measure whether these, especially tight ends, because I know Travis Kelce is kind of the corollary. You saw Travis Kelce's yak just fall off year over year over year. And that's kind of the telltale sign that he just doesn't quite have that juice. He's still a good route runner. He can still earn targets, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's just not Travis Kelce. And that appeared to be true for Mark Andrews as well, who isn't a yak guy, but he went from not a yak guy to just tip over as soon as he falls. Second half, or not even second half, really final month and a half of the season, it was one of his best yak. If it was a season, it would have been the second best yak season of his career. He had the juice again at the end of the season. I believe 4.8 yards after the catch per reception. Again, not an elite number, but really for his standards, it would have been an elite number because it's not exactly his forte. So to me, all those signs point to the fact that he probably wasn't truly washed, and it was largely maybe the injury, quote injury, it was an off-field injury, maybe the injury at the beginning of the year, and the fact that Isaiah Likely is good. He deserves to have a role.
Thank you.
He
admitted.
No, Likely's a really good. I think in a lot of other situations, I would be very happy to draft Isaiah Likely. This just isn't a lot of other situations. And that was the big roadblock for him, is that Likely was earning too many routes. That is obviously not going to happen week 1. I think, especially in such a fun game environment, Pat, you've probably done all your rankings by now? Where'd you put him? Because I would put him as a top 5 tight end. I think he is a good candidate to be the next tight end after the big 3.
Week 1, I keep it pretty close to the summer rankings. You do have to obviously make many matchup related adjustments, but tight end 7 or 8 still, just to be honest.
I'm a little, this game seems fun to me. Likely. Andrew seems like he looked really back at the end of last year. I'm probably closer to that 4 to 5 range.
It's just a big stack for tight end this year. Dalton Kincaid, one of them, Denny, he caught a stray, I believe, as the young people call it, from Kyle during his Mark Andrews breakdown. But you've been regretting to inform all summer it's Dalton Kincaid's season. Is that true in general and especially for this game?
It's probably not.
Let's move on then.
Look, the Athletics' Joe Buscaglia believes, quote, "It's fair to expect more of the same from Dalton Kincaid in 2025." So,
in other words, it's still over.
Totally over. I mean, the copium with Kincaid is that he commanded a target on 28% of his routes last year. That was second behind Jonnu Smith among tight ends. So that's good. That's like something you look for on the edges. But if he doesn't see more routes, then it really doesn't matter unless he starts scoring touchdowns at a high clip. And there's no reason to believe that's going to happen. So, I mean, he's a streaming option.
Dalton Kincaid, beginning of the year, then on the tight end 1-2 borderline. We'll see what happens. I still think they need those targets. By the way, I've never heard of Joe Buscaglia. I have heard of Joe Buscaglia. Everyone says, I can't say names. Guess what? It's Joe Buscaglia.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Pat, I saw a glint in your eye. I knew you were going to bring this up.
You did. I know. Kyle can always see when I'm about to catch Denny on a technicality and how much love it brings me.
Yeah.
By the way, Bills backfield, James Cook did resign, so not expecting many shenanigans, but I'm interested to see what happens to Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. If they both have roles, this is not very good for James Cook. Could really complicate keeping him in that high-end RB2 range. But enough on the best game of the week. It's time to get to the second best game. Trying to reclaim the NFC North throne from upstarts Detroit and Minnesota, the Packers opened the year as home favorites against the Lions team that went 15-2 last season, Kyle. There's a lot of respect. That's a lot of respect for a team that struggled to win big games last season. The Packers were very, very bad against playoff teams. But, we don't care about that. All we care about is Matthew Golden. He went from weekly guaranteed bust to summer buzz candidate in the blink of an eye. Realistically, is he going to be a weekly starter in 12-team redraft leagues, or Matthew Golden, are we just waiting and seeing?
I think he's probably closer to a weekly starter. Certainly not someone you're slotting into your top 2 receiver roles, but most leagues you're starting 3 receivers and a flex. I feel like that's probably the average format right now. And I feel like he can at least crack that flex spot. Throughout the preseason and throughout training camp, they were treating him as if he was going to run all of the routes. He can play outside, but he can also move into the slot when they play 3 wide. If you're getting all the routes, if your quarterback is talented, which I think they are, and Vegas generally projects you to score a lot of points, they're projected for 25 points this week. I believe that is like the 6th highest, if I remember correctly. That's the recipe for fantasy points. And as much as I agreed with Denny that I did not really think he was a first round talent, just given his analytics profile. But I have to give some credit to the NFL. These many billion-dollar companies all kind of seem to agree that he was a first round pick. I don't think this is a one-off that the Packers went off the board and took him. He seemed like a pretty safe bet for multiple teams, most of teams, to really value him as a first round pick. They all value him that way. And there were some redeeming qualities to his analytics profile. Not a ton, but some. And now you're telling me all those attributes, the routes, the quarterback play, the team totals are all there in a game that looks really fun, no less. That's starting wide receiver material quality.
It is. And Matthew Golden, I just think he's kind of at the vanguard of, we're going to look back in 5 or 6 years and realize that it's kind of everything we knew about evaluating college players. Maybe it hasn't necessarily changed, but it's just totally changed. But it's just different than it used to be, where it's kind of apples to oranges, transfers and NIL and super teams. You see someone get buried on Ohio State or the LSU receiver core. Man, this guy wasn't even the number 1 on his own team. How can he be a first-round pick? I don't know. It's because Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were on his team. So things are just changing in that regard, and that the old indicators might not be as reliable as they once were. Mr. Denny. So, apparently we're starting Matthew Golden. Are we starting anyone beyond him and Tucker Kraft? Tucker Kraft was someone all summer I just feel like I didn't respect enough. I always forgot just how good his box scores were last year. It's such a crowded skill core, but it seems like they need him. So we're starting those 2 guys, but are we starting anyone else?
The reason you felt that way about Tucker Kraft is because he's bad. Sorry to say.
I muted my own laugh on accident there. In an instinctual level, I always think he's bad. So that I don't study him.
He's not good. He's actually bad. Here's what I have here. Last season, he saw a target on about 14.5% of his routes. That's in line with guys like Kyle Pitts and Noah Gray. He saw a target on 13% of his routes in 2023. So he doesn't ever command targets. He scored a touchdown on 6 of his 15 red zone looks in 2024. That's running really hot. He's going to be out there, I guess, but I don't see him as a slam dunk starter in 12-team leagues.
So, okay, you think there's only one Packers skill core starter then? Matthew Golden, apparently. The guy that we thought was not good until a few weeks ago.
I mean, I still don't think he's good. And he's wearing number 0. So
it was better than 22 or whatever he was wearing. I mean, 0 is not the best, but
22.
We got to talk to our young wide receivers, man. Like we got to talk to these fellas.
Dude, put on something with an 8 as the first number, man. Please.
As a country, we have to do something about this.
I keep watching the Cowboys Netflix infomercial, and they show some Michael Irvin in college. Michael Irvin, like a wide receiver's wide receiver, was somehow at the swaggiest university of all time, Miami, wore number 47.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Actually,
I didn't know that. Did they just were obviously those Miami teams were stacked back then? Did they just have every number in the 80s and in the teams?
No, they didn't explain this during the documentary. They're more focused on Jerry Jones's triumph over all the haters and the adversity, which he does do.
He got away with it too. He got away with it again this week.
He does. He's going to keep getting away with it. Denny, or excuse me, Kyle. Denny is freaked out about Isaac Tesla. Are you? Because that's really the only thing to talk about right now with the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, smash. Amon-Ra St. Brown, smash. J-Mo, upside wide receiver 2. Even Jared Goff, I feel like is underrated as a low-end QB1. The only variable right now, is Isaac Tesla. Maybe stealing targets from Amon-Ra, from J-Mo. Are you scared, or is Denny just being a coward?
Wait, so which way is Denny freaking out about?
I'm freaking out that Tesla, just on vibes alone, is going to easily be the wide receiver 2 for this team.
Dog, this was your whole pitch with J-Mo. What are you doing?
The wide receiver 2 is so absurd that like you actually do need to be.
Dude, I'm getting very nervous. I'm telling you,
very nervous.
Listen, I feel it. I'm telling
the J-Mo people.
I think you need to call a paramedic.
My thing with James was just like he just doesn't have a strong target earning profile. I do think he has progressively gotten better. He's another guy who I said like on another team that didn't have one of the best target hog slot receivers in the NFL, one of the best pass catching running back duos in the NFL, really good young tight end. I would feel better about him. I just don't know where the targets come from.
Guys, the beauty of J-Mo, this is how I used to play fantasy football. It was actually good if you didn't have to be spammed targets to score points. Kind of like the Deshaun Jackson principle. Like he's so good, you only throw to him 5 or 6 times a game, and he catches 3 or 4 balls for 120 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. J-Mo to me is a throwback in that regard, where he doesn't.
My favorite throwbacks are the opposite though. They're just like, oh, Brandon Marshall has the targets record in a single game at like 20 something. It was like the least creative offense ever. It's like I don't know, man. Just dial up Brandon Marshall again. It's so easy. They changed that player though. That player just is Wan'Dale Robinson now, unfortunately.
Who's the wide receiver 43 last year, and he had 93 catches, not targets, catches. Should be impossible. Quick yes or no.
Isaac Tesla. No, it's all.
Hold on. Time out. Let me be clear. Quick yes or no. Isaac Tesla, and yes, but should he be rostered in a 12-team redraft league?
No, not a 12-team redraft. It's
Denny,
I kid you not, he was the worst day 2 prospect since Velus Jones, and you're worried about him?
I don't care about the prospect stuff at all.
The Matthew Golden guy doesn't care about the prospect stuff.
I'm sorry, I don't. Dan Campbell is the coach of this team, man, and he literally cries when he talks about Tesla. Every time he's weeping about this kid Tesla. I just have a bad feeling as a J-Mo drafter.
Tesla's maxing out is like a Taysom Hill who throws even less somehow. That's what Tesla's maxing.
All right. I think he should be rostered in deeper 12-team leagues, but
I actually agree with Denny. I have him rostered in a 12-team league or 2, and it's going to look really great to see the point from him every week.
We will see about that.
Because we're getting zeros from Isaac Tesla. Denny is wrong. The Bucs and Falcons meet up in this season's first little shootout that could. We quote unquote know Tampa will do its part in this game, Denny. How do we really feel about Michael Penix and company? This is an offense we slept on too much this summer. This is still not a very deep skill core, but Penix off the charts dog levels. He's an attempts are a QB stat quarterback. Kind of a quiet, confident summer for Atlanta. I don't know. It's just not the deepest skill core. Did we sleep on this offense too much, or did we sleep on them the exact right amount? Question.
Did we get moderate?
We get our full 8 hours of sleep with them.
I still think that overall they're going to try to be a run first team, not necessarily like a massively run heavy team, but a run first team. But this week, all bets are off because they're playing a Bucs defense that last year was by far the most extreme pass funnel. I'm going to have a piece on that on Friday on the site if folks want to check it out. And the Falcons passed at a crazy high clip against these Bucs last year. By the way, these teams combined to score 123 points over 2 games.
These teams do not play defense when they face each other. Just straight up, they don't do it.
So
47.5, shockingly low total.
Just to get into the numbers a little bit, the Bucs opponents last year dropped back at a 65% clip and averaged 42 pass attempts per game. That's a neutral game script, by the way, that 65% number. So, the volume, I think, should be there for a lot of these guys. We're going to get to that in a second. Penix, I think, functions as a nice streaming play this week. I will not commit to him as an every week guy, though.
I've got him as a nice streamer, like QB 20, 21. Penix, I just think, everyone's like, where were the quarterback values this year? Denny and I kind of settled in Cam Ward. I think Penix, just wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in like the top 14 or 15. He's not going to end up in the top 12. I don't think the skill core is deep enough for that, but just think he's going to end up in the top 14 or 15. Kyle, if some people had their druthers, they'd be ranking Emeka Egbuka in the top 14 or 15 at wide receiver. The coaching staff, the media, fantasy players, they love Emeka Egbuka more than like any prospect in recent memory. So I'll just ask you, how high is too high for Emeka Egbuka with Chris Godwin out the first month of the year at least?
Wide receiver 20 would be too high.
All right.
That's my answer.
I like it. It's actually like nicely realistic from you.
We don't know he's good. Like, obviously, I think he's
basically saying he might backdoor wide receiver 2 production is what you're saying.
I would think that has to be the projection, especially for week 1. You could very much tell me in week 3 or 4, he is just a top 14 guy. Like, people made, I made sort of the comparison, not saying this is who he is, but the Justin Jefferson comparison of like, he's a low ceiling guy. Like,
Adam, real quick, clip that real quick. Jefferson 2.0. Right.
He's a low ceiling guy. I think he had the exact same combine, like height weight combo as Justin Jefferson. It's also part of where it comes up. But also, Justin Jefferson was not the number 1 receiver when he was playing alongside Jamar Chase. We have that comparison as well for Emeka and Jeremiah Smith and Marvin Harrison Jr. But like, he was extremely productive, extremely efficient, and drafted in the first round. And another guy who I don't think it was a one-off that he was drafted in the first round. I think it was very much a lock to go in the first round by someone. Didn't have to be the Bucs. All those are very strong indicators of talent. Now there is no one impeding his path to routes. He is probably going to have one of these like 80+% route rates in week 1, a chance to establish himself over someone like a returning Chris Godwin or very much eventually a returning Jalen McMillan. And this is, as Denny pointed out, just a game that really does look fun. I kind of agree that this just strikes me as one of these classic like AFC or NFC South barn burners. Like, these two teams they came here to do 2 things: throw interceptions and throw touchdowns. And every play is going to attempt to be one of them. So
I was surprised the total was below 50. I think this is going to be a fun game. This to me looks like the perfect kind of DFS stacking game. Egbuka is super cheap on every DFS site too, because obviously those prices were released weeks and weeks and weeks ago. So he's kind of a free square, but both a free square in DFS, like if you're playing on DraftKings, or a free square just in your season-long leagues. Yeah, the game too, in the Dome in Atlanta. So no threat of storm blowing in off the bay. Just seems like, even though Michael Penix is still kind of an unknown commodity, it just seems like a perfect spot for your DFS stacks to hit the over. And by the way, the only thing with Egbuka, no Ohio State receiver has ever been good. That is a problem. But
a lot of them have been decent, though.
They have actually. We went Jason's going to lead the league in targets this year. Denny, what were you going to say?
So no, it's in the Dome, so no threat of rain or wind or crowd noise. I mean, and that really helps. Remember the COVID season. The COVID season was great scoring-wise because these guys didn't have to deal with the crowds.
And two, the Falcons, no team has ever pumped in more fake crowd noise.
I was about to say, to be fair, Falcons, they might have a lot of, quote, crowd noise, unquote, in there because they're going to pop that once.
That's true. Real quick, too, with Egbuka, everyone focuses on Chris Godwin being out, understandably so. I think the thing that really put Egbuka over the top is Jalen McMillan missing half the season, because even if Egbuka's struggling or something, like, who do they give the snaps to? Who do they give the routes to? It's just kind of trial by fire for Egbuka. The setup just could not be better for Emeka Egbuka. Sometimes good rookies even still don't do anything with a perfect setup. The setup's almost perfect. Denny, it's early in the season, but we just talked about this being maybe a potential DFS blow-up spot. Are there any sicko plays maybe on DraftKings? Any ancillary players that we like in this game from a DFS perspective?
Yeah, so Darnell Mooney and Kyle Pitts went off against the Bucs last year to an extent in both games, actually.
So he admit Kyle Pitts is an ancillary player. Write that one down too.
Yeah, listen, Pitts caught 11 balls for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns against Tampa Bay last year. He was targeted on a decent 18% of his routes. Look, I don't know what goes on here, but he's going to be very low rostered, I would guess, on DraftKings. He's very, so I think if you're going to stack this game and you want to go the Bucs side, Mayfield, Evans, Ibuka,
Sean Tucker.
Maybe run it back with Pitts, assuming that the Falcons are going to have to throw a lot. He could get there.
I like where Denny's head's at there. Really good analysis. I'm writing that down too. I'm going to do some single entry. It doesn't sound like a single entry line. Oh, actually, it kind of does. We're going to look into this very powerfully. The Colts and Miami Dolphins meet up in an early statement game in Indianapolis because neither team would be happy about losing this game. The fan base like, oh my God, we lost to the Colts.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we lost to Tua and Mike McDaniel. So Kyle, it's the Colts who are favored narrowly at home. We love the skill core in Indy, but we don't like the quarterback, Daniel Jones. He is not a friend to fantasy managers, at least when it comes to passing volume. Sometimes he backdoors production with his legs. But as of week 1, which Indy pass catchers can we actually start in 12-team redraft leagues? Because again, the focus is on it's not Anthony Richardson. There's a real quarterback. And then it's Daniel Jones, who does not make guys valuable pass catchers. Who can we actually start in 12-team leagues?
I'll just have producer Adam queue up like a fell for it again graphic for next week. But like, this is the exact same total, 47.5, as the game we just talked about. Obviously, we all kind of feel like the previous game might be a little more fun. But if Vegas is to be trusted, which in general they should be, I promise you, I'm not winning betting NFL sides and totals every single week. This looks like a good scoring environment and a back and forth scoring environment with the Colts favored by well under a field goal, 1.5 points, obviously. If you're telling me there should be some volume, and especially because Shane Steichen, almost no matter who his quarterback has been, he always runs his teams extremely fast. And now we're going to get a higher percentage of dropbacks converting to pass attempts because Daniel Jones is back there, and especially accurate pass attempts specifically. Like, of course, like Anthony Richardson does a decent job at avoiding sacks, but some of his throws just are so far off target that they're like, for the receiver's purposes, that's functionally a sack. So this is, I think, as good of an environment for the pass catchers as you can expect for the Colts. High total, slightly favorites. They're going to have a high team total as well. Going to be a good pace, and the appropriate quarterback on the roster for fantasy points, at least, is under center. I'm starting a lot of them. I am absolutely starting Josh Downs. He's healthy, practicing in full. He's my sweet baby angel, Antonio Brown Jr., and Michael Pittman earned a lot of targets last year while playing through a broken back.
Yes.
He's still very fantasy viable, as much as it's not nearly as fun. Tyler Warren, it's probably like, you probably have to rank him as a tight end 1. Like we saw in the preseason too, they're not doing committee stuff. All the years of both the team before Shane Steichen and under Steichen rotating their tight ends, very obviously.
The days of the Colts having 5 tight ends are over.
That was because they had 5 awful tight ends and they just couldn't figure out what to do. They're like, well, this guy blocks to the left on zone plays best, so he gets 2 snaps here. And this guy on in-breaking routes is the best, so he gets 2 snaps here. They just have one guy who can do it all now. He's going to play every snap, and a tight end that plays every snap and is probably talented. Again, like we don't know for these rookies, but he's probably talented. He has to be a starting tight end, even if we do give him a slight dock for being a rookie at a position that is hard to make the transition to right away. I still think he's a low-end tight end 1.
Kylan Granson, you are no longer a DFS dart throw. Denny, Jonnu Smith is gone from Miami. Malik Washington actually got some summer buzz. I was kind of in on Nick Westbrook-Ikine as a deep sleeper before no one ever once mentioned his name during the summer. So is there a third Dolphins pass catcher we will be starting behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, or is this just the league's most narrow offense south of Philadelphia?
It's going to be very narrow. I guess it would have to be Washington, assuming that he will be the wide receiver 3 here. But the Dolphins last year ran the 3rd lowest rate of 3 receiver sets. 38% of the time they use 3 receivers. And, so I just don't, it's just hard to like factor in. When you factor that in, it's hard to see a path to a guy like Washington running enough routes, seeing enough snaps to be a thing. I guess Darren Waller is going to be out there maybe. So that's something to watch for like very deep formats. I kind
of forgot about that one.
Yeah. I mean, he's alive and he's on the Dolphins roster.
Well, hold on. Like, he's not practicing. Like, is he alive?
I think he did finally practice at some point.
He did not practice Wednesday, and I do not think he practiced Thursday.
Oh, never mind.
Okay. Then that's not happening.
He's going to retire.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as like DraftKings goes, like, I mean, this is an easy game to stack. You could just do Tua, Waddle, Tyreek, and then Downs, or reverse it and do Jones, Pittman, Downs, Tyreek, you know.
Kyle, real quick. We're rostering Ollie Gordon as a final round or 2 pick in a lot of 12-team leagues. Will we ever end up starting him? Classic, like if you're starting Ollie Gordon in week 1, like thoughts and prayers be with you. Your team is already cooked. Will we ever be starting Ollie Gordon?
Ever, yes, but I agree that week 1 is not the time to start him, especially as road underdogs too. If they're home versus the Browns starting Shadur Sanders in week 12 or whatever, like they're playing literally anytime they play the Saints, because the Saints do not have a good option at quarterback. Like those are good spots where I think the Thunder component of this backfield, which it looks like Ollie Gordon is going to take on. Obviously, no Jalen Wright, no Raheem Mostert, who played an extremely valuable role 2 years ago. I think as home favorites, that role would have some standalone value, enough to be a flex type play. This is a road dog game where we have not seen anything from Ollie Gordon, who did not have a good 2024 season and is really in the position he's in right now because multiple players ahead of him got injured. We need to see it first. He needs to prove it to us. Could he prove it to us? Like, yeah, I do think that's very possible, but this is a wait and see spot.
I had a joke that I was going to make, and I've already totally forgot. Oh yeah, if they're playing, the Saints, if they're playing the Browns, if they're playing the Patriots and Drake May, a team that doesn't have a good quarterback, then you can start Ollie Gordon. I'm sorry, we'll see about Drake May.
Producer, cut that. We're tight on time anyway. So
a little later in the show, winter. It's still 2 weeks away in Cleveland, Ohio. Denny Carter. They get 2 more weeks before winter begins on Lake Erie. So the Browns and Bengals get a game total approaching 48. Joe Flacco, excuse me, everyone always yells at me, has had an unexpected second career act as a fantasy folk hero. But realistically, Denny, can we start any Browns beyond Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku, even in a glorious matchup like this one?
Go ahead, Denny. Tell them about the best tight end that no one drafted.
So Kyle wants me to say Harold Fannin, but I cannot in good conscience say Harold Fannin.
Good to be the adult in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it'll look. You want to get crazy and some DFS stuff? Sure. You go ahead and get crazy. But yeah, I mean, Njoku and Jeudy are like great. I feel like with Flacco under center. When Flacco was under center for 5 games a couple years ago for the Browns, Njoku was top 10 in receptions in the league, not just among tight ends.
That's just 2 years is a long time at Joe Flacco.
Flacco was the same guy last year, though. They did the same thing in Indy. They were like,
he was real good for the Colts, Joe Flacco.
I mean, he put up a lot of the fantasy numbers went burr. Every single Colt increased their I mean, it's not hard.
That is true.
But yeah, they did the same thing in Indy that they did the previous year in Cleveland, which is like, just have fun, Joe. This season's over. Your career is almost over. Really go for it.
I mean, I'd say Cedric Tillman can be played in 14-team leagues. Is that fair?
Yeah, that sounds right. Some people, I think, are getting some 12-team hopium with Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, I do. That'd be a classic. Like, listen, man, it's a free country.
It is what you want.
It is week 1.
You already paid me for the league, right? Let me just check my Venmo. Yeah. No, you play him. Go ahead.
Yeah, you paid for the league. You're allowed to start Cedric Tillman. So the Browns, my only word advice in the Browns too. Talk about a week-by-week proposition. Just don't look too far into the future with the Cleveland Browns. Joe Flacco is not starting 17 games. He's probably not starting 8 games. So just do not look too far in the future of the Cleveland Browns. Kyle, that includes in the backfield. What do we even say about this backfield? Denny and I feel like I've talked about it several times recently. What's your bit on the Cleveland Browns backfield? Quinshon Judkins has still not signed his rookie contract.
Yeah, at this point, I just don't see how he could play week 1. Obviously, at best, he's returning. We're recording this Thursday afternoon. I don't think he's signed yet. So at best, he returns Friday. He's probably not playing on one practice, let alone one practice this week. One practice since like OTAs were the last time.
One practice since college.
Yeah. Well, I think he showed up. I think he was out there for OTAs or mini camps. Right. Even the guys who don't sign will be.
You can get a waiver. And that's right.
Yeah, there's some like specific waiver they can get or whatever. So. But that's it's functionally meaningless. He missed 2 months of playing football with the team or whatever. He's not playing week 1, which leaves us with a 2-man backfield, which for NFL standards, like a lot of backfields are 2-man backfields. And one of them is a rookie who rushed for 250 times for 1,400 yards and 22 touchdowns in his final season at Tennessee. And he was the one who started their final preseason game. Like, I'm interested in that. I know they're underdogs. I know this team we expect to pass a lot. But you do have to expect some fantasy production from the backfield, and it's going to be a split in which one of them is a really exciting young back. Again, a spot where I don't know that you should be in a position where you are starting him this week. It's week 1. We don't have any buys yet, and you're still starting Dylan Sampson. But I can see you getting a little frisky and doing it, especially if your teams that Denny drafted, like true, disgusting, bad awful. 0 RB teams.
Heinous. Like, will bankrupt the family. Will dishonor the Carter family name.
I
We'll get
roasted Denny
Ireland to request
mercilessly.
all Carter surnames to be changed in America.
I roasted Denny mercilessly for his for the mock draft day. You guys, I was in some of the mocks last week, and I was roasting him as like every pick in the mid rounds that came off the board. I was like, and there goes a guy off my queue. Because he made all the fun picks. So if you're in a spot where you drafted very fast and loose at running back, Dylan Sampson could crack your starting lineup. Should he? Probably not. But do I think he's a decent bet to get maybe a dozen touches? And there's upside with a young guy who had a good profile on a dozen touches. Yeah, there's some upside there. So it's probably not a play you want to make in week 1, but I bet some people out there need to make it.
Denny, the Bengals, an elite team, we're just not going to talk about very much. They're maybe the most solved team in all of fantasy football. Again, the Eagles may be accepted. Is there anything to even really say here? Start Jamar Chase. Start T against Burrow. Chase Brown is lovely.
Yeah.
Anything else to say?
Not really. I just went on the Cleveland front real quick. Just want to note that Jerome Ford is listed as the starter on the depth chart for week 1. I'm just saying. Ooh. I know the Zoomers are not going to like it, but it's true. Okay, so I think that Joe Burrow is on a mission from the Almighty to throw 100 touchdowns this year, and the reason I think that is because A, I watched him in that QB documentary, and he has that dog in him, and B, because the Bengals said, look. Zach Taylor said, we're going to play our guys in the preseason because we always struggle out of the gate. And by struggle, I mean, look like the worst team in football in September, right? Like truly bad stuff. So they go ahead and they do it, right? Which is very risky. And I wasn't, a huge fan of it. And Joe Burrow absolutely cooks. 88% adjusted completion rate in the preseason. He threw 3 touchdowns on 23 attempts, completed 18 of those. Like, just crazy numbers in the preseason. I know it's the preseason, but we have to remember that Burrow gets so many high-value throws inside the 10-yard line last year, 71 attempts inside the 10. Mahomes was second with 48 attempts inside the 10. So, like, this team, I feel like Burrow is just going to cook. So, for DFS purposes, there's going to be a lot of chalk, I think, gravitating toward this game, or at least the Bengals. I think they could be decent chalk.
So the Bengals apparently not going to lose to Jacoby Brissett in week 1 for the second straight year. Good time to take a break. We'll be right back after this. Sunday evening, 2 of the top players in the NFL collide as reigning MVP and the Bills host 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Coverage of the showdown begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. The reigning MVP, of course, Josh Allen. That was his name.
I went up to the Ravens fan at my kid's bus stop today, and he's wearing his
Was he a kid? Shirt. So you went up to a child, like you were like, "Hey, kid."
And well, we talk ball, and I said, "Hey, are you ready to watch that game, your Ravens game on Peacock and NBC?"
And he said, "I sure am." Okay, good. Yeah. That's good because sometimes kids, I feel like now they have the jerseys, they don't even watch the game. Like 100%. Sorry. Yeah. So see, kids these days, they think things like Bryce Young is good. We're going to get into that right now. The Jaguars and Panthers are a pair of 1995 expansion teams that never stop feeling like it. To be frank, littered with recent disappointment. They both have much to prove in 2025, Kyle. The Bryce Assance has taken on some water after Adam Thielen's trade was followed in quick succession by Jalen Coker's injury. Can Bryce Young... Can he really realistically get on the streamer radar with what is just not a good supporting cast? We have high hopes for Tetairoa McMillan. Tetairoa McMillan has never played in the NFL. There's no one behind him to draw defensive attention or targets. Can Bryce really be in the streamer mix in the status quo situation right now?
What would you be doing streaming quarterbacks in week 1? How did you find yourself in a position in which you need to stream quarterbacks? I think I would say, though.
I don't even mean week 1. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, though, Superflex. If you were considering Superflex, of which we're in a few together, I think, at least in one. I think he's kind of a starter in Superflex. We have a lot of games that have not crazy totals, but totals that you can dream on, these 46, 47.5 totals. And these are just 2 pathetic defenses. I know they have both, quote, made improvements in the offseason. We'll see how that goes. It is going to be very hard for the Jags to go from 32nd in EPA per dropback allowed by a country mile to anything other than 25th. That would be a very big improvement and would still leave them as a bottom 10 passing defense in the NFL. I did have one note also on more bodies being lost for the Panthers. It looks like their left tackle, Ike Ekwonu, appendectomy, is not going to play this week. And so my immediate thought, I think Denny has made this point before too, was like, oh, Bryce is going to be under more pressure now. He's going to be terrible under pressure. He caves under pressure. He was really good under pressure last year. He was top 5 in both yards per attempt and PFF passing grade after returning around week 8 or 9 in the NFL on under pressure dropback. So even that one fly in the ointment of they probably are going to have a diminished offensive line. Had that been the case last year, also probably would not have been an issue. So I do think this is at least super flex territory for Bryce.
That was the thing with Bryce at Alabama too, is muddy pockets. He was great at improvising. Yeah. He was great at thinking quickly. We did not see that until the second half last year. And if he can continue progressing in that direction, he's going to be like one of the most successful, like was almost a bust and then like saved his career, is now a viable NFL player. I love to joke about Bryce Young. I'm very excited to see Bryce Young play this year. I do not want him to be a bust. Denny, what's the final summer word on Travis Hunter? Someone we've been talking about truly incessantly since February, even before he even had a team. Can he be a wide receiver 3 in redraft leagues? That means top 36.
I will say, Roto Pets, I do not want Bryce Young to be a bust t-shirt. Is prompting a lot of questions already answered by the shirt. Listen,
I loved Bryce. Let me be clear.
I know you did.
I actually thought he should be the number 1 pick. Then I saw him play one time ever in the NFL.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, you're definitely playing Travis Hunter. The total in this game is climbing over the past couple of days. The Jaguars had the 4th highest implied total of the week, and the Panthers defense should be pretty soft, pretty exploitable. So you feel good about throwing him in your lineup.
Denny, I'll have you know they listed him as the starting wide receiver on the depth chart, put him back in the corner. Do you consider that?
Fully aware of that. I love it. I love it.
I forgot. So what is going to put Denny in hell just if Travis Hunter's good? Is that the only bar we need to clear?
Yeah, Travis Hunter's good.
Sort of good puts Denny straight.
Yeah, his ADP plummeted at the end of summer too. Like obviously, like the best ball sickos were drafting him wherever. They're like, I'll just take him 2 picks before his ADP, and that kept rising. And at some point, maybe wasn't the best pick. And then he was consistently on DraftKings falling into like the 70s. Like I think his ADP closed at pick 66 or something. Like he was. Denny, I'm so excited to bury you. It's gonna be a fun one.
I reversed course.
You did.
30 days ago, I was like,
did.
I'm wrong.
You really did.
You did.
It's over.
And Denny is right, shockingly often. He reverses course a lot of times at opportune moments because he's a very smart analyst. Kyle, the Jaguars' backfield is a huge mess. Who scores the most points when it's all said and done? I guess say week 1 and just on the year. I have my money on Bashal Tutin, but getting into like day 2 or 3 running backs. Rookie running backs is a very common yearly fantasy analyst mistake, but just don't see it happening with Travis Etienne. Maybe with Tank Bigsby. Who scores the most points this week? Who scores the most points this season in this Jaguars backfield?
This week, I'll go Tank Bigsby. Like we said, this is a spot where Jags have an extremely high implied team total. They're home. They're favored by just over a field goal. And Bigsby does appear to be the between the tackles grinder type. In their first preseason game, the Jags basically just went by seniority, not rotating, just running back. In their second preseason game, I believe they only played their starters in 2 preseason games. They actually did a true rotation, which Tank Bigsby started, and then mixed in with Travis Etienne, which is exactly what you would expect. Tank Bigsby gets the early down work. He was really good at that stuff last year. He was top 10 in rush yards over expected per carry, top 5 in yards after contact per carry. He was a really good 2-down runner. He offers nothing in the passing game. That's why even in week 1, Travis Etienne is going to see some work, but I don't really know how much because he's not very good. He was 39th and 46th in those 2 aforementioned metrics last year, among the worst in the league at creating extra yards after contact, creating yards over expected. I just don't see how he can get there, even if he's perfectly splitting the backfield 50-50, how he can get there on a diet of 10 or so touches, unless potentially this is a true shootout and he gets all the passing down work, which that could happen. Bashal Tutin was my pick for the year-long fantasy scoring leader. And even more importantly, the guy you need down the stretch. Like, congrats if you win your first 3 weeks because Travis Etienne ends up catching some passes. Good. I don't think he's the long-term, and by long-term, I mean 17 weeks answer. And Bigsby's fine. He's a good between the tackles player. I just don't know if he has a league-winning profile. If anyone does, it's Tutin. So he'll be my pick for season long.
That was the whole case with Tutin. Could be a massive bust. He's the only one that has the plausible upside outcome. No offense to, I guess Tank Bigsby has a next Chuba Hubbard outcome, which would be a pretty good outcome.
That's a good way to put it, actually. That is a very good way to put it.
That'd be a great career outcome for him. It's just not a very likely outcome. We'll see. Maybe it's not impossible, but Tutin's where the season-long upside is, despite having a floor that could fall all the way out. The Washington Commanders come off their stunning NFC Championship game appearance, a solid, underwhelming 6-point home favorites against the Giants, Denny Carter. The bookmakers apparently still really respect Russell Wilson. They respect him so much they made him almost a touchdown underdog. I guess I should get my story straight there. I feel like potential Commanders regression was an under-discussed summer storyline. Jaden Daniels is a born superstar, but this is a weak supporting cast. When I think of the league's best adjusters at offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury doesn't really come to mind. Is a sophomore slump a possibility here for Jaden Daniels, or is he just too preternaturally good at the game of football?
I took this question seriously because I get that sense too that Washington is going to take a step back. I don't mean
implies there are questions you don't take seriously. Go on.
It does. You're right. Stuff like are you playing Tank Bigsby? No. So a lot of the metrics from last year, the overall offensive metrics for the Commanders are really positive, and I couldn't really poke a hole. Like, for instance, they were second behind only the Lions last year in rates, and in the rate of drives that ended in a score, 50%. It's super high.
Wow.
Great stuff. But the one thing that kind of jumped out was the Commanders took the 7th highest sack rate, and Jaden Daniels' pressure to sack rate was the 8th highest in the league. That sort of thing can catch up to you. Like you can't get away with that forever. So if that doesn't improve or even gets worse this year, I feel like maybe they could take a step back. Yeah.
That's probably going to be a little hard to improve that too, because that was his college profile. That was the big bugaboo for him coming out of college. And it's one that he overcame through sheer talent, but he didn't overcome by fixing the problem, as your stats point out.
Yeah. Well, I just need to see. We can overrate the effects of play callers, but I just need Cliff Kingsbury to prove he's ready for. I mean, we know like big time adjustments are coming. Not that they didn't adjust as the season went on last year, but it's just really different year over year. Yeah. And I do not know if Cliff is going to have the answers for what's going to be thrown at him. Kyle, is it Bill season? You may know him as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, or was that just a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing? Bill ended up like in the RB 36 to 44 range in drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting priced out on Bill towards the end of the summer. I thought, especially, I mean, he's got the Tank Bigsby profile where I do think Bill is going to be a good between the tackles runner. He played 13 games over his final one season and one game, essentially, of college football. He caught 7 passes then. He is as one-dimensional as it gets, and that is what Tank Bigsby is. He's a really good between the tackles player, and if he were to get all the work, he could very much be a Chuba Hubbard type of player, and I think you've got that upside, maybe even more. Like Chuba Hubbard's really good, but you could be better than Chuba Hubbard. Some guys are, and maybe Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is that type of player. But in week 1, we don't know that he's going to get all the work between the tackles. He almost certainly is not going to. Like, they're going to use Austin Eckler for some of that work. Not a ton, because I don't think he can handle a ton. But they could also use Chris Rodriguez, who's been really efficient over the past years. He's a backup, but he's probably a good backup. So you're telling me I'm splitting the work, and it's on a team that doesn't have a ton of goal line to work to go around because they have a rushing quarterback. Last year, despite being, I think, 6th or 7th in overall scoring, they're only 12th in running back carries inside the 5. So they have a good amount of goal line work, but not really commensurate with how much they actually score points because their quarterback is the engine of the team. So good goal line work, but not great. Probably not getting all the between tackles work. Definitely not catching passes. I probably want to see it at least 1 week with him. He's another guy where I could see where you need to start him. Like if Denny drafted him early in the summer on a 0 RB team, yeah, he's probably a starter on a 0 RB team. If you went running back even twice in the first 4 or 5 rounds, I doubt he cracks your lineup as anything other than the flex for week 1. We'll see. Like he could just come out and I mean, they could make Chris Rodriguez a healthy scratch, at which point you're totally taking a lot of between the tackles work. But until something like that happens, or until they just go out and give him 16 carries, I'm gonna pump the brakes just a little bit.
Jay Glazer tweets he's expected to get 20 plus carries today.
That would be a good Jay Glazer tweet.
By the way, great use of commensurate. If you guys want to know sometimes how broken brained I can be, by the way, you want to know an intrusive thought. For some reason, when Kyle said Chuba, I thought I sort of heard him say Chuber. And it reminded me, I was like, how would John F. Kennedy say Chuba Hubbard? And he would definitely say Chuber Hubbard.
Hey, you got to stop reading. All this reading is breaking your brain.
Oh my God. That's actually that's the greatest thing I've ever had.
Chuber. We love our Chuber. Denny, we do not love our New York Giants, except for Malik Neighbors. We're starting him. What about a single other solitary Giant? I mean, we're starting Tyrone Tracy as a flex. We're starting any Giants other than Malik Neighbors, maybe Tyrone Tracy.
If Theo Johnson plays, he should have a good route participation.
I just thought you said O Johnson too. I'm getting like really Irish brained, Massachusetts Irish brained right now.
And as one does, yes. And so just he could get there if the Giants fall behind and have to pass more than when they want to. I did want to mention that Washington's rush defense was really bad last year. Allowed the second highest rate of rush yards before contact, and the third. They had the third lowest stuff rate, so they just weren't really stopping anybody. And I feel like Tracy could be a nice play.
Chuber Hubbard and then Tyrone Tracy. I don't know. I gotta stop. I gotta get off this.
I would go Chuber.
We got to get off this game because there's not anything else to talk about. Now we're on to the Vikings. We're on to the Bears. The Bears and Vikings each find themselves on the spot for different reasons this season, Kyle. Kevin O'Connell's Vikes appear capable of success with almost literally any quarterback. Mm-hmm. But do we have any expectations of J.J. McCarthy becoming like a fantasy starter himself? Like, obviously, Superflex now is becoming very prevalent. But, Sam Darnold was in a top 12 quarterback for much of last season. Is that a potential outcome for J.J. McCarthy? Or is there only so much one man can do, Kevin O'Connell?
Yeah, he can do a lot. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks he's had. The league average yards per attempt last year, just for reference, was 7.1. He got 7.9 from Sam Darnold. Previous seasons in combined, he got 7.2 from Kirk Cousins, so still above average, 9.0 from Nick Mullins, and 8.4 from Jaren Hall. That's the only quarterback he has coached who did not exceed last year's average YPA. I just used it as a benchmark, but just call it 7 or 7.1 or whatever. The only quarterback who hasn't exceeded that was Josh Dobbs, who still got to throw a lot of passes. It still worked out for at least his pass catchers. To me, like, you are probably saying that you expect you at least expect him to be better than two of those names, but like we had pretty mixed to low opinions of Sam Darnold going into his Vikings tenure, and then we came out of it saying he was probably better than we thought, but also not as good as we thought in week 8 or something like that. Obviously, we saw the wheels come off at the end. I do think that maybe we don't get quite as much passing volume, but the passing talent and the passing acumen from J.J. McCarthy is at least better than those of Nick Mullins and Jaren Hall, and it could be better. I would kind of bet on it being better than Sam Darnold. So the only real worry is that he changes something in the overall passing volume that he has done with every single quarterback since he became a head coach. I don't even know if I buy that he'll do that, especially in a game with a 1.5.
It's at least possible.
It's possible. I do think it's not impossible. I agree.
Because as we remember, this kind of system J.J. McCarthy came from, also from Michigan. It's within the range of outcomes. Brian, do you have anything to add on J.J. McCarthy, Denny?
I think the Vikings could be way more run heavy than we're anticipating. I think I keep looking back at that acquisition of Jordan Mason as like, we're establishing it. Doesn't matter.
It's over. Never been more over. Jordan Mason signified the end. By the way, do you guys know what team the Pastronaut is on right now? Josh Dobbs.
I do.
I'll let the
Niners.
No, he used to be on the Niners. He's been on the Niners since he's on the Patriots. How does Kyle know this stuff? He's on the New England Patriots. Denny. So there's a lot of Vikings talk. The Bears, man, for a bad team. They've got a lot of interesting moving parts, a crowded, messy skill core. Who can we actually start, though, in 12-team redraft leagues from the Chicago Bears? A lot of big names, a lot fewer, like, surefire starters, I would say.
DJ Moore, certainly. Maybe Odunze as a flex in 12-team leagues, maybe.
I think the world is coming to grips with the fact that Odunze, #not good.
Well, okay, all right. Here's a theory that was thrown at me by my good buddy JJ Zacharyson, and it really made me think. What if Michael Penix is really that good that he kept Jalen Polk, Rome Odunze, and some other guy I'm forgetting afloat? Jalen McMillan, right? All three of those guys, they could actually be bad, right? And so, but they looked amazing at Washington. Right.
Let's take it even further. Don't forget Kalen DeBoer, massive fraud. Ryan Grubb, massive fraud.
Yeah, I forgot about both coaches were total frauds.
DeBoer, I mean, listen, we're making fun of Belichick down in North. DeBoer, stop, dude. Like this is the state of Alabama.
DeBoer could be fired this week.
DeBoer, enough. Like you had your little play time.
Yeah,
you pretended you were the Alabama football coach. Now move on. Get out of here.
Dude.
Next. I want to fear the University of Alabama football team. I think I have Kalen DeBoer. But Denny, sorry.
All right, real quick, I just want to mention something about how Caleb Williams played against the Vikings last year. Now, this is Ben Johnson's offense, although it could remain the same because Ben Johnson talks about nothing but checkdowns and screens and whatnot. Anyway, in 2 games against the Vikings, Caleb did pretty well, but he had an ADOT, an average depth of target of 7.5 and a 6.5 yards per attempt, a lot of quick passing. I think that bodes well for DJ Moore, who you're playing. Could bode well for Colston Loveland, depending on how he splits that role with Cole Kmet.
Bears, so many interesting names. I ended up with Loveland, that was like a mid-range wide receiver too. You can't get Luther Burden into the top 50 right now. The Bears, a team, we just need to see him play. Kyle, that very much includes in the backfield, where the summer thesis was that DeAndre Swift would default into RB2 status, but that Roschon Johnson could make a move. Kyle M., as he's known, could also make a move. I am totally incapable of saying his last name without humiliating myself. It sure looks like DeAndre Swift has just defaulted into RB2 status. Is this true?
Yeah, Kyle Monangai. And I was going to I almost have nothing to say on DeAndre Swift because, like you said, he just defaulted into it in that he was not pushed in any capacity from either Roschon or Kyle Monangai. I mean, right now, Roschon, at least as of Thursday, did not practice. Kyle Monangai was a little banged up with a hamstring injury, limited in practice. At that point, my only note on the backfield that it looks like we may have a change in the number 2 status where Kyle Monangai may have fully overtaken Roschon, which he was flirting with doing during the preseason, during training camp anyways. Roschon, like, as much as he has a lot of things that he does at like a C- level, that's a very easy profile to overtake. And it seems like Monangai has done that, at least with the health status he almost certainly has. But that's the RB2 situation. The RB2 situation is ugly. When we're talking about a poor profile, day 3 pick, Kyle Monangai overtaking Roschon, all of this talk that I'm doing right now is just music to DeAndre Swift's ears. He's hearing us talk about the kid from Rutgers who immediately, I believe it was Bieniemy, maybe it was the OC. It was like, you run like an old guy, you run like an old man in practice. Almost the very first practice of the year. Swift is getting a lot of work until one of these guys makes a move on him, and maybe that doesn't happen all year.
There's just a lot of Kyles, by the way. There's Kyle Dvorchak. There's Kyle on the Bears. So I call Kyle all the time Kyle D, and I call the Kyle on the Bears Kyle M. That's why I do it. It has nothing to do with me being literally incapable of saying his last name. The Rams and Texans are one of this week's most intriguing games, not taking up a lot of the Tacosphere's mind space, Denny. We blamed it all on Bobby Slowick last season. What might a new 2025 day look like for CJ Stroud in fantasy? Can he get back into the QB1 mix where he ended his rookie year in 2023?
I think so. In his 2023 rookie season, Stroud was top 10 in fantasy points per dropback. That's a really strong signal that a guy's good. That doesn't happen by mistake. You can look at a lot of, we could spend 25 minutes just going through like what happened last year with the Texans. But one thing is that they didn't really protect Stroud, and they have to do it because Stroud is not good under pressure. No. Last year he faced pressure at the 9th highest rate in the league. In 2023 that was 27th, so near the bottom of the league as far as pressure goes. If they can protect him halfway decently well here this season, I think that he can get back. Yeah.
By the way, my Dolphins fan friend was despondent to find out Bobby Slowick is on the Dolphins staff this year as the passing game coordinator. See what happens. CJ Stroud, someone I've really got my eye. Not great under pressure. I thought Bobby Slowick's biggest failing was even the Bears made some adjustments to get a little less pressure on Caleb Williams. The Texans look like they had genuinely no clue what to do. Just not a good coaching performance. Maybe it was a bad quarterback performance. We're about to find out. A lot of new faces in this Texan skill core, Kyle, including veteran Christian Kirk, rookies Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. Fantasy managers want Jaden Higgins, the second rounder, I believe, to be a thing. Is it Jaden Higgins' season, or is it just too early? Do we need to see do we need to see something from the Texans for declaring it Jaden Higgins' season?
I think you probably don't, in that he can be a flex play out of the gate in the same way that I talked about like Emeka Egbuka, assuming Christian Kirk doesn't play, which he did not practice Wednesday, and he was not spotted at practice on Thursday. We don't have the official report as a recording. It seems like a DNP on Thursday. Wow. It's a decent chance he doesn't play. There really is no path to Jaden Higgins not seeing a full complement of routes at that point. And it was what I said with like someone like Matthew Golden. Your talent evaluation of him can be very mixed. But you have to acknowledge the upside of a player we've never seen play at the NFL before, who got good draft capital, who's running all of the routes, and who I still believe has good quarterback play. Like, obviously, last year, much shakier for CJ Stroud, but I do still believe he's a good quarterback. you've got all the pieces in place for a potential Higgins breakout. The one thing I wanted to note is that if Christian Kirk doesn't play, you called it out quite well, is that Jalen Noll's probably going to be out there for maybe not all of the routes. He'll probably be primarily playing out of the slot, but this is a really good looking matchup for him. And we can make some easy comparisons because he and Higgins obviously played on the same team last year. Jalen Noll was in the vein of the Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk zone man splits. He was the zone beater of that team, averaging 3.5 yards per route run against zone. That was top 5 in the country last year. He was still fine against man coverage, but that was his specialty, and Higgins was the other way around. Last year, the Rams were a top 5 team in zone usage rate, and most teams run a decent amount of zone too. So they were top 5 in something that most teams do anyways. That is the calling card we had for Jalen Noll coming out of college, is that he just feasts against zone. If we do get confirmation that Christian Kirk isn't playing, I think Higgins is a very viable starter, but I think you could probably take some shots on Noll as well.
That's
Christian Kirk going outside, apparently. Denny, we talked about this one a lot, probably too much, but real quick, how to approach this Houston Texans backfield, seemingly led by Nick Chubb in week 1.
Well, Chubb's the starter, and I think that he'll lead the backfield in touches here for whatever that's worth. The Rams defense is bad, like really bad. The Rams last year, the rush defense. Rams last year had the league's 3rd lowest stuff rate, 2nd highest rate of missed tackles per rushing attempt, allowed a top 3 rate of yards before contact. So like, I kind of can see in my mind's eye, like Nick Chubb is all the way back, baby. Now, will he be long-term? Probably not. But I do think that he will lead the league, not the league, the team in touches, and he'll get goal line touches probably. So you could do worse, I guess, as an RB3.
They don't trust Dameon Pierce. And Chubb, listen, he's old by football player standards, by human being standards. He's still quite young, and young humans do heal from injuries.
They do.
He's another year removed.
I think
I don't know, dude. I messed up my neck lifting a while ago, and I am not healing well. So I'm not going to have to agree with you on this Nick Chubb analysis, using me as a parallel for Nick Chubb.
I messed up my neck sleeping, and I'm not.
Yeah, it's over for Denny.
Just real quick on Chubb. Jonathan Alexander, the beat writer for the Texans, said, "Look, they signed Chubb because they feared that Mixon would miss the early part of the season. So just keep that in mind."
Of course, that was never reported by anyone. Just came out of nowhere. But
keep the Los Angeles Rams in mind. They do exist, but we're starting Puka Nacua. We're starting Devontae Adams. We're starting Kyren Williams. We're going to see what happens with Matthew Stafford in his back. There's not a whole lot to say about the Rams yet. Keep an eye on Blake Corum. Maybe keep an eye on Terrence Ferguson, the rookie backup tight end. There's not a whole lot to say about the Rams yet. We need to see them play. We need to see some data points. The 49ers and Seahawks are hiding away in Seattle for week 1. The total is a modest 43.5, and the Hawks find themselves as narrow home dogs, despite being a better team than the 49ers last season, Kyle. Injuries had a lot to do with that for San Francisco. That's why everyone expects them to get back on track this year. But what does that even look like? I still feel like a more muddled skill core than it's given credit for, and we were giving it a lot of credit for being confusing this summer.
It feels like one that will solve itself quickly. Like Christian McCaffrey will either be Christian McCaffrey or he won't. But we'll probably know right away whether he is washed or not. And if he's not, it's obviously just the Christian McCaffrey show, but maybe it's not. That could happen. He's an older player who didn't look very good in his very limited route or limited snaps last year. In terms of the receivers, another one where like, if all the Juwan calf stuff was just fake, which like, dude, it was totally fake.
It's like the injuries are getting faker every summer as teams just kind of accommodate the hold-ins. Like, I understand that you just can't really play hardball in these situations. You have to allow a player to fake an injury every once in a while now.
You have to allow them. And then you give them a few million in incentives. They didn't even give them that much. It was all incentive-based. Like, everyone goes home happy. He could still come back to the team next year, assuming he's fine and he's not like, missing the practice time, which kind of looked like what happened to Brandon Ayuk. The missed practice time actually did impact him last year before getting hurt. Assuming none of that happens, he looked like a borderline superstar in terms of ability to earn targets, his ability to move the chains, his yards per route run all looked really strong last year. Obviously, it's the massive blow of like 170-yard game. If that is the player who he is, even if that's just a Shanahan creation, he's obviously maybe not one of the best receivers in the NFL, but if Shanahan can manufacture him to be one of the best receivers in the NFL, that just solves that problem instantly. And we know who the number one receiver is. So this to me is like an interesting game to look at what they like. Week 1 could tell us more information about this team than most other teams. One thing that maybe will also help clear up the fantasy production is just the team needs to be better in the red zone. Last year, they were 14th in touchdown rate in the red zone, 3 years before that, or I guess the 4 years before that, 3 times they were 7th or better. Almost every year, even if they don't have like good quarterback play, this is a team that converts when they get in the paint. They did not do that at a high clip last year. They're right about league average. If they do that at an extremely high clip, that will be both good for a guy like third and Jawan Jennings, a guy who is, even before he broke out, was sort of famous for being the high leverage guy. He'll come in on third down, get you a first, and then get subbed out again. Could really be beneficial for his touchdown totals. And of course, CMC as well.
Denny, real quick, share your vile JSN hate. You don't think he's going to be good for some reason? I think he could maybe lead the league in targets.
No. Next
segment, buddy.
Look, they brought in Cooper Kupp to play the slot. As long as Cooper Kupp is in there playing the slot, taking valuable.
As long as Cooper Kupp is in there, let's see how many times he's been in there since 2021. About eight total times.
Look. If Cooper Kupp gets hurt in week 1 and doesn't play till week 9, they're going to bump JSN into the slot, and I'm going to look like a damn fool. But I just want to reiterate that JSN had a 1.44 yards per route run from the boundary last season. That was 74th among all receivers.
That's why they're not going to do it. They're not going to just stick him on the boundary.
I'm with Pat on this opinion that JSN is probably not an outside player. He wasn't in college. He didn't look like it in the NFL. Like, man, you got to be dumber than rocks to see what he did last year and then be like, and we're playing him outside. Like, I mean, that's what we saw with Puka last year. Was the Rams at some point were just like,
Kupp is the sacrificial lamb. They're basically paying him money to be a buddy.
That's what the Rams did with Puka and Kupp last year. At some point, they said we have
be
to
a leader, be a buddy,
as often as possible.
Then you're saying the Seahawks are lying. That's what you're saying.
I am, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, sure, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm taking them at face value, and if they go through with this plan, then JSN is going to disappoint. That's all.
I agree that if they go through with it, it will be really bad for JSN. I'm a little more skeptical that they're going to do something that dumb, but they could. Like they
could. Teams do. It does
they
happen.
Do dumb stuff. I'm stuck between two worlds of like, yeah, of course they're lying. Teams lie to us all the time, but also like these teams do so much dumb, frustrating stuff. Both of those things are true, but they're at odds right now.
Teams be real dumb sometimes. So real quick, Kyle, we're starting anyone beyond Kenneth Walker and JSN from the Seahawks offense. Can Cooper Kupp get into 12-team league lineups? Maybe Elijah Arroyo.
Definitely not Arroyo. During the preseason, it looked like a true tight end by committee. I'm not even sure he leads. Obviously, like you said, you're starting Kenneth Walker. I'm still starting JSN. I do share Denny's fear that if they move him outside, it's bad. I just think they're less likely to do it. My flip side of that is that Kupp basically goes to 0, even more so than JSN probably, if they force him to play an outside role for the exact same reason. He had the same profile last year where he wasn't even that good out of the slot last year, averaged like 1.8 yards per route run, targeted on 22% of his routes. But those are viable numbers. If you do that while running all the routes, you can be a fantasy wide receiver 3. Like, I just am skeptical that the moment they move him outside, he's clearly not going to be very good in that role. And if they do that a lot, which would be the right thing to do, he goes to 0 functionally. So to me, he's the one who he carries more risk that he's older and played worse last year. But I think it's also that just makes the more likely outcome that you can't really flex him if that's the case. I guess right now, though, you probably, if you drafted him, like this is the time to start him. Like you didn't draft him thinking like he's going to get better as the season goes on. At least I wouldn't imagine so. He's an older guy. You don't really expect that all the time. So if you drafted him, you probably are playing him, but there's a reason I wasn't drafting him.
Denny, the Boston Patriots, as they're known, are field goal home favorites against the Vegas Raiders. Fantasy managers have so much riding on rookie hype merchants in New England and a busted veteran and Stephon Diggs. Which Pats are we actually starting in 12-team leagues and redraft?
Yeah, I mean, you're starting Travion. Certainly, you're starting Diggs. He's practicing, should be out there for a full complement of snaps. I don't think you can start anybody else in 12-team leagues. I guess you could talk yourself into starting May, but don't get fancy with like Hunter Henry or like Kyle Williams or anything. Kyle
Williams just didn't get a ton of training camp love. Someone whose ADP never really rocket shipped. We need to see improvement on the field. And rookie wide receivers in the New England Patriots have not mixed for a long, long time. So Kyle Williams, I'm keeping him holstered in a few 12-team leagues deep on my bench. Could be an early season cut. Kyle's really weird summer for Jacoby Myers. He said it doesn't matter anymore. He's moving on. Does that matter in fantasy? The weird summer, the hold in or whatever, Jacoby Myers, or is he a trustable wide receiver 4 for Vegas?
Yeah, it wasn't even a hold in. I don't think he missed a single snap of practice. It was like hey, could you do? Nope. Okay, cool. Well, go back to practice that. Like, it was a very, very respectable. You get a trade request and you're like, I'm not dignifying that. Go away. Like, that was kind of what the front office did to him. He even said so. He's like, I asked for a trade. They told me no. Here we are. And so, assuming there's no bad blood there in terms of he's not going to play any fewer snaps. Amari Cooper just retired. There's really no way for him to play fewer snaps. He was a really good, wide receiver too, like you said last year. He was top 20 in catches, targets, and yards. He's getting a quarterback upgrade. He's getting a coaching upgrade. Even if they end up running the ball more, they're still going to at least play at a very high pace. So I don't think the passing volume craters for this team, and the efficiency should go up. He's not the most exciting play, but I do think in the vein of like, if you were drafting Cooper Kupp, why didn't you just take the safer play in Jacoby Myers at a very similar price? Because I do feel really strong about his role, his efficiency, and the environment he's in.
These backfields, beware of the Ramondre Stevenson rug pull in New England, where we love Travion. It seems they love Travion, but Ramondre did not go away. I was going to say maybe beware of the Raheem Mostert rug pull in Vegas, but you don't have to be aware of that. It's not. You don't have to be aware of that. You do have to be aware that we're taking a short break. We'll be right back after this. Tune in to NBC Sports Now for all the biggest stories in sports, beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern with PFT Live, available on Peacock, the Roku channel, Samsung TV Plus, and more. Visit NBCSports.com/now for more details. Stugotz. We love our Stugotz. The Saints and Cardinals square off in the kind of game. Let's be clear, Fox is sending two announcers we've never heard of in our entire life to the Superdome. I had no idea so-and-so worked for Fox.
We've actually put Denny on loan to Fox.
Yeah, Denny is actually covering this game for Fox this weekend. Sure. Kyle, I've seen so many summer fantasy drafters eager to give Marvin Harrison Jr. a second chance. It definitely makes sense on paper. What do we get in practice with MHJ? Did have 8 touchdowns last year, almost 900 yards.
I think in practice, based on how they used him in the preseason, and like they weren't talking a ton. Like I expected a lot more of like moving to the slot more often. Got to manufacture more touches for him. Nope. Instead, it was like they told him in the offseason, like, it's over. Marv, we're gonna use you even more as a like old school 2010s Mike Williams boundary receiver. Right. And he was like, got to put on mass, which like he's shredded, man. But I don't know if that's
boy did he get big. Boy did he get big.
Very big.
He's beautiful looking. I don't think it's good for fantasy, but he is beautiful looking.
Yeah, it looks like the Mountain from Game of Thrones. That's real good as a wide receiver.
He's shredded. The good news is I'm skeptical that things change and that he's a good pick at his price in terms of season long. But throwing in DraftKings lines or whatever, this is a good matchup on paper versus Saints defense that gave up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers last year, and they were specifically getting gashed on deep throws. They faced the 3rd most deep attempts. They gave up the 8th most explosive passing plays last year. That's all the Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, that's music to your ears if you drafted him and you're hoping to get a big return. And you kind of need, at least if nothing changes last year, you're just hoping, sort of like Jameson Williams, like the highs are even higher. He may gain some target share, but he just keeps spike weaking opponents to death in terms of fantasy purposes. And this would maybe be the start of that. I'm still skeptical that he changes his profile as a wide receiver, especially because nothing else about the team changed. It would just have to be they decide to use him differently, which they should, but I don't know if they will. We talk about teams doing dumb stuff all the time. This looks like one of those spots, but in terms of the micro spot versus the Saints, it's a pretty good matchup.
I think the positive arguments for MHJ is maybe that nothing's changed and he's a really smart player. Same play caller, same quarterback, same supporting cast. He's known for being very technically proficient. And then maybe he's playing faster, like making even sharper cuts this year. Yeah, we didn't hear the things we really wanted to hear. Marvin Harrison Jr. Denny, Trey Benson. Fantasy managers have always been obsessed with Trey Benson. I don't really know why.
I don't get it.
Do we care about Trey Benson at all, or like what's the deal with this?
No, I mean this is an unbelievably good spot for James Conner. I don't think we should overthink it too much. I do think. Okay, I gotta say it. Don't cut my mic. I do think the Saints
cut his mic before he does it.
Yeah, well, no, the Saints cannot win this game.
I think the Saints win.
They can't win. They actually can't. Not even Kyler is capable of this. I don't think. I don't even think Kyler's capable of this.
Do you want some Saints can't win stats? Because I've got some Saints can't win stats. Among 86 quarterbacks with at least 200 dropbacks over the past 5 years, Spencer Rattler ranks 83rd in EPA per play.
Hell yeah.
83rd in completion percent over expected. Averaged under 200 passing yards in, I believe, 6 starts. Maybe it was 5 starts last year. Their average margin of defeat, they did not win a game, so it's all defeats in those starts, was 20.3 on average. They scored on average 12 total points. This, It's disgusting. This is going to be miserable football.
It's going to be miserable football. We'll talk about the Saints pass catchers another time. To Denny's point, Kyler, hashtag known choker. New Orleans, always an emotional environment. It's going to be really fired up there. Maybe they'll spring a week 1 sneak attack, kind of like they did in weeks 1 and 2 last year, but I cannot follow my brother Denny down the path to predicting a New Orleans Saints victory, even against Kyler Murray, my sworn enemy. The Broncos have one of the league's most hyped young quarterbacks, while the Titans have the literal number 1 overall pick, Denny, that couldn't stop this game from having the second lowest total of the week.
Yeah.
Titans, massive road dogs. So I'll just ask about the hype. Is the Bo Nix hype case on solid ground? Sure, a lot of. He already has a top 10 finish on his resume. That's real good stuff from Bo Nix. But is he on solid ground? Is he going to run that back, be in the top 10 again this year? Danny, let's start there.
Yes, he's going to run it back. And this game, I mean, the Broncos have a 25.5 point implied total. That's actually down from 26. But anyway, it's just they're going to score so many points. And so Nix is a must start, I think. I don't know where you have him ranked at, but I feel like he's just got to start in 12-team leagues.
He does. I have him ranked QB9. You have to start him in 12-team leagues, especially in this game. Maybe you're skeptical. Like, you think there might be a little sophomore slump for Bo Nix. It's the classic, like, yeah, that's fine. Just not today.
Yeah.
Like, not in this game.
That's right.
Not going to happen. So that's your Bo Nix take. What's your take, Kyle, on RJ Harvey versus J.K. Dobbins? Denny, while you were gone in Vermont, for the longest trip anyone's ever taken to Vermont. Denny, I figured it was not. Let me be clear. Denny says it's over for RJ Harvey. Oh, is that true?
I mean, I don't think he gets the first carry. I think that's probably an accurate statement.
Yep, it's over. Yep.
That they brought in J.K. Dobbins to do a specific thing, which is grind between the tackles and probably play some pass pro too. And specifically last year, when you look at what he was good at, he was really good against stacked boxes, against like 8-man fronts, one of the best in the league at that. He can churn out ugly, hard to get yards that not every back in the NFL can do, and he does it better than most of them. And I think that's a valuable role that Sean Payton clearly values. But do I think that Sean Payton can turn RJ Harvey, even at 12 touches a game, into a fantasy RB2? That's his whole thing. That's why I drafted so many of these terrible running backs last year, is because his track record of not only getting fantasy value and efficiency, but throwing to his running backs. I believe he's been like 14 years in the running. His teams are top 5, like never once outside of top 5 in running back targets. I literally stopped counting at 10 years, and I know it goes on past that. Every single year he's in the NFL, he's coaching in the NFL, he targets his running backs more than all but 1 or 2, or sometimes no, other teams. And that alone is enough to get me to say that you want to keep playing RJ Harvey, even if, you should not project him to maybe even out carry J.K. Dobbins in week 1, especially in like a home 8.5 point favorite spot where they probably can play a relatively boring game and just kind of dog walk the Titans.
That is the thing with RJ Harvey, is I feel like even 10 to 12 weekly touches to begin the year, like I feel like that's enough of a win for fantasy managers. So, and J.K. Dobbins, I mean, whatever. J.K. Dobbins is the kind of guy you can say really nice things all summer. Then when the game's going on, you kind of start like burying your head. Like, oh my God.
I'm on just a completely different page with you guys.
I mean, Sean Payton's going to see this guy slam into a brick wall about 90 times. And finally, all right,
Dobbins is not bad.
I admit it.
Dobbins is not bad. Listen, you're going to want to get the Denver backfield right in this game, because somebody's going to score a lot of points out of that backfield.
I'm trying to speed through the end of the show because we're short on time, and Denny unveils something incendiary like J.K. Dobbins is not bad.
I'm just saying, we did this last year all summer. We're like, oh, Zach Moss is terrible. Everyone knows he's terrible. He's going to hold off Chase Brown all year. Like, oh, Zeke is the worst running back in the NFL, but the Cowboys love him. Like, oh, Rachaad White, they love him in pass pro. And like these arguments, and it took some time for all those examples I made. It did take some time. And I will admit, it will take time for RJ Harvey to like be in every week. You have to start him no matter what. We did this all of last year. Then you tried to do this with Brian Robinson. 2 days later, they traded him. That's how easy it was for him to get knocked over by Chris. By JCM. So I agree. We should temper expectations for week 1. You can lock him into my starting lineups in week 8. I don't care what happens.
Denny trying to be incendiary. Denny, real quick, give us your Titans. Give us your Titans spiel one final time. Why these are your Titans?
I love my Titans. I've been a fan almost my whole life. Everyone knows this. It's a horrible spot for my guy Cam Ward, so don't get cute. I think the main beneficiaries of like massively negative game script and a pass heavy script for Tennessee, my Titans, would be your favorite player, Kyle and Pat, Chig Okonkwo.
I can't remember Chig. I can't. They seem like they maybe were a little more interested in using him in a full-time role in the preseason. It moved around a little bit, but
yeah,
I think
he's going to be out there a lot,
on Chig for now,
catching a lot of checkdowns. Calvin Ridley has a nightmare matchup here against Sertan. Maybe you can get funky with Io Maynor, but honestly, like Pollard is a bad play this week.
He isn't because 20 touches. I feel like even still,
he could save his day with 5 receptions. Let's just say that. But I feel the Chig vibes are good right now.
They've been good for you all summer. I think they probably are good for week 1. I like Io Maynor, someone I'm really keeping my eye on this year. Could become one of those really good situational deep threats who pop up in fantasy as wide receiver 4s. A lot of games were under 40 game totals last year. Only one this week. Aaron Rodgers, how the mighty have fallen. 38.5 total for Steelers at Jets. Kyle, do we have anything nice to say about the Steelers offense, or is the answer just no?
No, I mean, I guess the one sort of interesting note, I mean, I'll go through the bad notes first. Steelers might have one of the highest run rates in the NFL. We know that's how Arthur Smith wants to play it. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can bend Arthur Smith to his will to not do that, but I'm skeptical. And we know that Aaron Rodgers wants to play as slow as anyone in the NFL. This could just be the worst play volume team in the league. The one positive I do have is that with so much 12 and even 13 personnel, I mean, they talked about 14 personnel throughout the offseason. Actually, it might have been like 04 personnel, like no wide receiver, actually.
That means 4 tight ends, folks.
Yeah.
That's right. Hell yeah. Football is meant to be played.
It's sick. It's sick. With all of these tight ends being constantly on the field, that is typically, I mean, historically, the data bears this out, is really good for the wide receiver's target earning because you're a wide receiver competing with guys whose job it is half the time to block for targets. You're competing with those guys for targets. It's really easier, at least it's meaningfully easier to earn targets and be more efficient as a wide receiver. And there's a bunch of tight ends on the field who are not as talented of pass catchers as other wide receivers. DK Metcalf is probably going to set a career high in targets per route run for what it's worth. But like the routes run component of that is going to be pretty low.
Jaylen Warren seems like he seized control of this backfield, both via extension and coach quotes. Caleb Johnson looking like kind of a rough flex play to begin the year. Denny, take us home on the Jets. Fantasy managers spent a lot of the spring hyping Justin Fields, not nearly as much as the summer hyping him. It seems like the light has gone out of that case there. Just anything to say on Fields, anything to say on the Jets as we end the show?
Tomlin did, by the way, call Jaylen Warren our featured runner just the other day. So we got that going for us, which is nice. Justin Fields, look, he's pretending like he's never heard of the Steelers. This guy
he's mad.
He wants blood so badly.
He's mad.
You can see it in his quotes. I haven't even heard him talk. I'm just reading his quotes. He wants it. So you got to keep that in mind. Also, I mean, look, last year he averaged 39 rushing yards and 0.8 rushing touchdowns per game before he was benched for no reason for Russell Wilson. Only Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson had more missed tackles forced over that stretch. He's a really good rushing quarterback, like really productive. So like, I know, look, they lost Elijah Vera-Tucker to an arm injury. He's going to be
God never smiles on the Jets
for the whole season. It is a really rough break for the team and for Tucker. I will say that mostly impacts the run game. I still think you play Fields in 12-team leagues.
Kind of like the QB 15 or 16. Just the game total's so horrendous. It's still a pretty good Steelers pass defense. Just a good overall Steelers defense. They know Justin Fields' has very predictable tendencies. Doesn't strike me as a great spot for Fields.
It's not a great spot, no.
Not a great spot. Not a great team. Good thing, Jets fans, is the Mets. There's no way they're going to get caught by the San Francisco Giants. No way the Giants are not just all suddenly breathing down their neck after winning 10 of 11. Really, really good stuff from Denny and Kyle on the show. Really, really good stuff from them all over the website. Going to be really good stuff in Denny's Q&A Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Kyle and I talking waivers Monday, I believe at 1 p.m. Eastern, Kyle. Everything updated on the website all weekend. Every game blurbed, every player. We're going to talk about it in our Sunday recap show. So for Denny, for Kyle, we're glad you made it to week 1. We'll talk to you real soon.